I want to talk about the 4 seasons of marriage. It's not the idea that you start out in spring and if you live long enough you'll get to winter. No. I use the seasons to describe the quality of a marriage. A winter marriage is cold and harsh and bitter. We're hunkered down in the igloo. Spring marriage is the opposite. It's alive and exciting. Summer marriage is relaxed. We've learned how to solve some of our conflicts. We're enjoying life. A fall marriage looks good on the outside, but in about 6 weeks, the leaves are going to fall off and they're going to be into winter. So I have a little quiz in the book on the 4 seasons of marriage to determine what season you're in. Now, one husband took it and said to me, Dr. Chapman, I took the quiz and it said that we were in a summer marriage. My wife took the quiz and it said we're in a winter marriage. So which is it? I said, you're in a winter marriage. If one of you thinks it's winter, okay? But what I want to talk about is how do you spend more time in spring and summer? Let me give you some ideas. First of all, you got to deal with your failures, because your failures of the past sit as a barrier, an emotional wall between the two of you. And you're not going to get back to spring as long as that wall is there. We got to deal with our failures. Learn how to apologize for the past, learn how to forgive each other. Then we got to choose a positive attitude, because in a winter marriage, you've got a negative attitude. You're just trying to stay out of each other's way. You don't want to get into another argument, so you're just living separate lives. You got to look for something positive in the other person. You got to look for something positive in the relationship. At least you're still alive. You don't have a dreaded disease, or maybe you do have a dreaded disease, but you're living today. You look for the positive things. And then make sure that you're speaking each other's love language. You didn't think I'd talk and not mention the love languages, did you? You got to learn how to speak each other's love language and do it every day, even if you're in a winter marriage. Speaking the right love language can melt the ice and begin to move you towards spring. And then learning how to listen to each other empathetically. What I mean by that is when you're dealing with a conflict, your spouse is talking, put yourself in their shoes. Try to look at the world through their eyes. Don't sit there and reload your guns. They're wrong on this and wrong on that. Try to understand why they're thinking what they think and why they're feeling what they feel. And when they get through, say to them, I think I'm understanding what you're saying. It's making sense to me. Wow, now you're not an enemy, you're a friend. Learning to listen empathetically is extremely important if you're going to get back to spring and summer. And then discover the joy of helping your spouse succeed. If your spouse says to you, someday I'd like to take a course on journalism or anything, you've heard them say that along the way. Why don't you think in terms of how could I help them do that? Find a way to help them succeed in something that they have on their heart and they have in their mind that they would like to accomplish in life. It's better to give than to receive. Remember that proverb? So help your spouse succeed. Help them do something they would really like to do. And then maximize your differences. Certainly you have lots of differences, but see them as assets, not as liabilities. My wife and many other people, she doesn't know how to keep up with car keys. The most common thing she says is, where are my keys? Folks, some people are not wired to keep up with car keys, but I am wired to keep up with car keys. Isn't it good she married me? Because I can find her keys. So you look for ways to maximize those things. One of you is a planner. You plan everything far ahead, make sure it's all working right and you get it all. And the other person is spontaneous. Well, let's use both of those because both of those are important. My wife has pulled me into more things that I didn't really want to go to, but once I got there, I enjoyed doing it, Her spontaneity gave me a wonderful experience. So maximize the differences. These are some of the things that can help you spend more time in spring and summer, which is what you wanted when you got married. I believe we can spend more time in spring and summer if we simply apply some things and do things differently from the way we've been doing them that led us to fall and to winter.